Hello, ladies. Welcome to part two of the Rebrand with Me series. We are actually pulling back the curtain on my own rebrand, which I'm really excited about. It's been something I've been wanting to do for a while. And so part two is where we really get into the strategic process of branding. This is setting a lot of the groundwork for my rebrand that I'm about to create. If you're new to the group, my name is Allie, and I'm a brand and website designer who helps women's service providers create websites and brands that actually book clients, something that I'm passionate about. I love watching women thrive in their business and grow. And so, this is a fun part of me becoming more aligned with the target market that I serve. We're going to talk a little bit more about target market today as part of the strategic part of branding. So if you are here, say hi. I'm going to check into the group, make sure I'm showing up here and that I can see any comments that you're making. And yeah, let me know where you're watching from. If you missed last week, I dug into I went into my own brand audit. So I went through my brand, I looked through it, and showed you like some of the reasons why I'm rebranding, what was the thought process behind it, and really dug into like some of the things that I think that could be improved and is kind of the impetus for starting a new brand. And if you're interested in seeing that replay, it's still available. So put replay in the comments and I can send you the link or tag you in that. But this week, like I said, is all about strategy. And I'm sort of treating myself as my own client. So I do this for women's service providers frequently. I have a pretty high touch, involved process for branding because, if you've heard me talk before, you know that I believe branding is much bigger than just a logo. It's much deeper than just some fonts and colors. We really want to kind of set like the full experience for our ideal client. We need to know who that is. We need to know what our message is. And so it's a comprehensive process. And I found that in doing it this way, it results in brands that work so much better to attract your ideal client. It results in brands that work to do the thing that we want to do. So that's the goal, and that's why I've created the process for my clients. And now I'm going to go through myself. Like I mentioned last week, I first created my brand 7 years ago when I started my business. I'm celebrating my 7th anniversary this month, so it's an exciting time to kind of think through what the future holds for my business. And at the time, though I had a lot of experience in branding, I wasn't super clear on who my target market was. I kind of served anyone. And so now that I have a lot more nuanced understanding of who I serve and what I do and what I want to offer and the packages that I offer, that I've found that would be a perfect time to really dig into my brand. So when I say strategy, what I mean by that is I know strategy is a word that gets tossed around a lot. Like everyone says you need a strategy for your social media, your marketing strategy, your website, all of those things. And it's true. It's very important, but it is sort of like one of those terms that it's like, okay, what does that actually mean? So just to dive into that, for me, I often talk about like the 3 pillars of branding. And number 1 is your target market, like knowing who that is in a very clear, precise way. Really diving into like what do they want, not just like the typical demographics that you hear when you hear about target market, but actually understanding like some of the things that they think about, that they worry about, that their personalities, their values, all of those things. So that's the pillar 1. And then pillar 2 is messaging, getting a clear understanding what you want to say to the world. What are the things, the core things that you want people to understand about what you do or what area that you work? And then, we're going to use those 2 pillars to apply it to the 3rd pillar, which is aesthetics. And so that's everything visual about your brand. So brand strategy includes like brand personality or brand style. And we want to make sure that what visual we create, the aesthetics that we have, are going to support our message and not clash with it, and also attract our target market, because they are part of the picture. And while we do want our brand to reflect our personality, we also want it to attract our target market. That's part of the purpose of a brand. You guys notice my really lovely manicure my daughter gave me. So that's why I have such wild colors on my nails today. So why does brand strategy matter? Your brand's going to be a lot more effective if it's done thoughtfully, if you're not just like piecemeal picking things out of thin air or like grabbing the latest logo trend. It also helps you make choices that will stand out to your ideal client. If you have them in mind, if you've defined them, then you're automatically going to start making choices that will stand out to them, and that will send your message, that will actually say the things you want to say. One example I've given a lot in this group when it comes to that is I had a client once whose favorite color was red, but she was a reflexologist, and she really wanted to create this relaxing, peaceful environment for her clients, like where they could come in and feel, de-stress and all of those things. Well, red psychology, if you know anything about color psychology, is really like a dramatic color. It sparks action. It's sort of like fire and motivation and all of those things, which that color clashes with that message, right? So we worked to create other colors that she still liked. She still loved her colors. They were still in line with her personality, but they didn't kind of conflict with the message that she was trying to send with her brand. The thing is, when you start out branding, it can feel like anything is possible, right? Like your brand could look like anything, feel like anything. And strategy is really kind of what helps you hone in on what it should be and narrow in on the direction that's going to work for you. So that's why it's so important. And something that I know that is so tempting to skip at the beginning. I know, and very commonly, I don't think people really even realize that it's something that you should incorporate. But even when people do, it's like, well, I'd rather just dive into the aesthetics or dive into the logo. And I promise you, it makes things a lot more difficult on yourself to do it just, piecemeal, just with things that kind of up in the air. So generally how I start my branding process is with clients is that I send them a questionnaire for them to work through. And it kind of digs into some of these questions. And this is a great place for people to just kind of do a mind dump about some of these topics. So I did this for myself, and I'll share this with you. If I can find the right window. And if you are watching and you can see that, let me know. So this is the form that I send clients, and there's kind of a couple categories that we work through here. The top, again, is target market, and we do this, kind of in the picture of like, who's your dream client? What is their income? Is there a gender it's best suited for, age range, location, some of those demographics. But then we also get into things like values and attitudes. What do they believe? What are their interests? What personality traits do they have? And so you can see there's a lot of questions around target market here. Some of mine, if you're in this group that I target women service providers, but it goes deeper than that. I tend to work with women who are really passionate about a big dream that they have, who really want to make an impact. They have an established service, like they have some traction. They've been in it for a little while, maybe branching into digital products or group programs or courses, memberships, those kinds of things. My ideal client has like really big dreams that is tied up into like the idea of having more freedom, for her family, for her other interests. She values time. She values excellence. She wants to be real and relatable. She's growth oriented, values authenticity and transparency, quality, innovation, and work-life balance. So those are just some examples of some of the answers that I had in my my target market section. These are things that I have kind of learned working with women service providers over the years that I've done it, and the common threads that I start seeing, because it is interesting. The longer you do your service, you start seeing things over and over again. Some things that kind of surface. I know that a lot of my clients have come to me, struggling to stand in a competitive market. Like they want something cohesive. They're not really sure how to do that with their online presence. They've got this traction. They're ready to scale, but they're finding that maybe their brand and their website's kind of a stumbling block. They're tired of the DIY route. They're ready to start handing things off because they've kind of reach that crux in their business where their time is now more valuable than their money. And I know that's always kind of a thing that we can kind of flip back and forth between. But even though investing can be scary, I know a lot of these women kind of realize that they are their own best investment. They want to stand out. They want to portray the excellence that they provide to their clients. And they want someone who will partner with them and that understands the nuances of how they what they want to portray to the world. So those are just some highlights of my target market. Obviously, there's a lot more detail here. And then as far as message, I ask, what is the primary message you want to send with those that you serve with your website or your branding? And so I want people to know that like a branding is a huge asset in their business to help them find perfect fit clients. It's worth investing in. It's often neglected, but it's something that can have this manifold return. It's bigger than just a logo. It's an experience that you're providing your clients. And then as far as websites go, it's really a powerful marketing tool that can be part of your sales system. Like I design websites that aren't just like pretty portfolio sites, but that actually create a sales system for my clients. And so I work collaboratively with my clients to do that. And one of the questions I ask here is, how do you want to perceive them by them? I want to be perceived as an expert in branding and websites, someone they can trust, relatable and knowledgeable. And then other things that I dig into, I don't want to go into all the nuances here, but kind of what I was thinking about what separates me out in my field is that I do a lot of intentional and thoughtful brand choices beyond just aesthetics. So I don't just create pretty brands of websites. I create things that actually work to get your desired result, which is usually booking clients, increasing your revenue, those kinds of things. And so with the specialization in working with service providers, I have like a lot of understanding of how a service-based business model works. What are the tools that need to be in place to make that happen, to make your website that sales tool for you? So those are just kind of some basics of my message. And then I get into like personality, brand style, those kinds of things. So a few things like about me, and what describe me, but then brand personality is where I kind of pick some adjectives that describe the overall style of the site or brand. And so for me, I'm really wanting to create something that's like elegant, distinctive, high-end, sophisticated. It still has that minimal, clean look, but it's classy. And the other thing I kind of want to incorporate is like a natural feel, because part of me, I really love the outdoors. I love being outside. And I also love the analogy of plants being kind of a analogy for growth. And so I think that kind of comes across in business well. And so I wanted to kind of incorporate that natural feel to my brand as well. And then I talk about some other things too. I looked at other brands that appeal to me and why, and my vision for my business. I think that we all kind of have this overall goal for our business. I think for me, that has been that I want more time, freedom in our lives in general. I would love to retire my husband so that he could do his business. He's a landscape photographer. And so the goal is ultimately that, we could just, travel when we want to, or, kind of have our own timeline. And so that's, one thing. I'm also working to create other offers in my business now that I've established a point where I serve clients. I kind of run out of time and I kind of get booked out. And so I would love to find other ways to make impact. And some of you guys have seen some of those things in my business surface already. The other thing that I have clients do is to create their own Pinterest board. And this is just kind of a way for me to see, like, what do they mean when they say those brand adjectives, things like classy or modern or edgy or whatever it is that they want their brand to be. What does that actually look like? Because things can look differently to different people. So I did this for myself. And at this point, I created a board and I didn't edit myself at all. I just kind of like pinned things that I felt were in line with the ultimate style that I want to go. And I'm looking for a variety of subjects. So things like homes, things, objects, things like, here I have a candle, I have people or women in this case, like different, uh, apparel, is a good style, inspiration. And then, again, different home things. And then I also include textures. Like you can see, there's these different photos that are close-ups of things that kind of create that three-dimensional look, that feel. And that way, that really is a fun way to add it, like more dimension, more uniqueness to your brand, is to add those textures in. So you can just see, again, I'm just like throwing things in here as much as possible. I don't like, usually clients don't do as many of these, obviously, because I do this for them. But I always like them to get started. That way I have something to go on when I'm shooting for the style that they choose. So again, you can see some different textures here. I love things like peonies, so I included some of those. Again, there's these natural elements. So I did some searches around nature and plants and things like that. The ocean, those kinds of things. But then again, I just kind of wanted this like very classy, elegant style. So that's where I started. And this is something that can be kind of a work in progress. I can continually add. So just to give an example, I'll even like search colors that I think are inspirational, or I think I might go for. But really the easiest way to do this is like I'll do the word that I'm wanting to include for my brand personality plus the word aesthetic. And so then that comes up here, and you can kind of scroll through these and see like what comes up for classy aesthetic. And obviously you can start to see kind of some common themes, common styles. But then also there's things that I'm like, nope, that's not necessarily going to appeal to me. But maybe, I'll find one that like, oh, I really like that. Or let's see here what I would want to include. It does take some searching, takes a little patience to kind of, weed through some of these photos. Again, because I've done this already, I have a lot of what I was looking for. But say like, I'm like, okay, I like this. So I'm going to go ahead and pin that to my board. And I do all sorts of different searches. So I go through my brand personalities, and not like natural is one. So I'm going to look at that and see if there's just a different style or look. And again, like, so some things I'm going to maybe steer away from, like kind of these palm leaves are really, really trendy in branding. So I'm going to maybe steer away from things like that. While this is pretty, this is more like kind of flowery than I'm looking for. I want something a little more simple, elegant. So again, just going through, finding things that I think align with the style, the direction that I'm going through, and throwing them on my board. So without having to pare myself down too much, I'm not going to use all of this, right? Like this is a broad spectrum of photos, and I'm going to pare these down into a couple different mood boards next week, which we will talk about, and get a little bit more specific. Then from here, what I did is, what I do for my clients is I put all of this information from their questionnaire. I turn that into what I call a brand strategy document. And that's basically just where I'm going to take what they put and sort of narrow in, make it a little more concise, a little more structured. And then one thing I also do is competitor research and a positioning statement for them. And I'll explain a little bit more about that. But basically, like, when it comes to competitors, I'm kind of the mindset that like it's community over competition. I know so many wonderful other brand and website designers out there who I love like collaborating with, or boosting their posts by liking them or commenting. I think it's a community, and I think there's space for all of us. So when I do competitor research, it's not to like, come at it as like this super competitive mindset. It's just to do some observing. And I think it's useful to see like what's out there. This is not like an all-encompassing process. You do not have to look up every single competitor. Like you wouldn't have the time, right? Like there's so many people out there in your space that do what you do. So it's not an all-inclusive list. It's just a snapshot of some things that you see in your industry. It's not really meant to be like, oh, this is good or bad, although you might come away with some, observations about that. But you want to look at like those small, large businesses in your space. I looked at like more national brands, but then also some local, just to get a picture of what I have in my local area. And so this is what, let's see if I can find my, here it is, brand strategy document. This is what I came up with. I have some different brands here that I searched for, and I make a couple little notes here and there about them. And then I looked at local options as well. And then after I come up with, a handful, I make some observations of things that I've just seen. One thing that I noticed that was interesting. So I would say that for me, my temptation was definitely because like you saw in some of those Pinterest pins that I showed you that like when I look up classy, you get a lot of like neutrals, like a lot of cream and black. And that is something that is sort of associated with elegant, classy, luxury, those kinds of things. And so that was definitely my temptation was to fully go down that route. And what I saw was there were a lot of other brand designers who kind of have that look, right? Like, they're using neutrals, they're using serif fonts. It's kind of that classy style. And so it did make me kind of think like, okay, I'm going to have to kind of reevaluate that direction fully. Like I'm probably going to want to add something more distinctive in there. Maybe kind of branch out from that a little bit instead of just kind of going down, because that's maybe my personal style. But again, I want my brand to be a little more distinctive. There are lots of other brand and website designers who target women as a target market. And then I noticed, locally, they tend not to be as niche. Like a lot of the local brands are a little bit more corporate, right? And so locally, I can definitely see myself kind of creating a picture for women business owners. But, again, my target isn't necessarily just in my local area. I serve women all over the United States and, even the world in English speaking countries. So in this section of the brand strategy document, I go and I talk about, I basically boil down what I wrote in the questionnaire into demographics, psychographics, and pain points and struggles. And so I get into a lot more detail here. I talked about this already on the questionnaire, so I won't go over that again, but it just basically like defines my target market and kind of an at a glance look. And I think this is so useful to go back to because I can't tell you how often like I kind of forget the details of my target market. So it's nice to have a place to kind of come back to. And then again, I pulled out kind of some bullet points of my message, like the things that I want to say, the core things. And then you'll take these in your marketing and expand on them, but you have these kind of fundamentals that you go back to again and again. And then here's my brand personality kind of boiled down into, some characteristics of like the feminine, distinctive, elegant, minimalist, classy, and natural. And then here I wrote my positioning statement, and this is really an internal thing. You don't necessarily have to share this with the world, but it's basically a statement about who you are, who you serve, and like what you do for them, right? What the end transformation is. So in my case, I wrote, Alibeck Design provides thoughtful and intentional branding and websites to women service providers so that they can stand out an authority in their space and book more clients. So that's mine to start. And again, like this is something that, I probably will go back to over time and make sure that it still fits, or if there's anything that I want to refine or hone on, that it's not something that has to be set in stone. But I do think it's like an internal compass, right? It gives you something to kind of shoot for, to go for. If you start realizing that you are way out, you're taking clients that are way outside of that, you can kind of maybe like, okay, I need to come back in and focus in on my ideal client, and really get good at serving them. So that's kind of that's what, that positioning statement is helpful for, and bringing some own clarity to your own mind about who you serve, what you do, what the outcome is, that kind of thing. So that's an overview of my brand strategy. Again, this is something that I do for my clients, for them, helping them draw this stuff out. Sometimes I think we kind of have blinders on when it comes to our own businesses. It can be hard to really think through this stuff, but it's helpful when you've got someone who's been doing this for a long time to help you with that. So I do that with my clients, and there's really two ways. Number one, I have my visibility mastermind, which I will be opening doors to in the next few months. And that is more of a done with you program. So if you really want to be involved in the process of your branding, if you feel like you want to do it on your own, but you kind of want the roadmap, you'd like to be able to bounce ideas off an expert, you want that guidance, it's a way to do that. And so you get through the process much more quickly, much more effectively when you have someone else to bounce things off of, to get advice, to coach you through it. And it is an 8-week program that, I have weekly coaching calls. There's a lot of trainings available to you on branding and my signature process that I bring clients through. And so that was a really fun thing that I just wrapped up with the last class recently, and just found some really great results for them. They, really honing in on their brands, getting things clear in their aesthetic, and aligning it to what they want to say, who they are, but also attracting their target market. So it's a really fun 8-week coaching session, which is again opening up soon. So if you have something you're curious about, you can put waitlist in the comments, and I will send you the link to book or to sign up for the waitlist. But then I also do this for my clients. So there are some of you are to the point in your business where your time is more valuable than your money. You want to start handing things off that aren't in your wheelhouse to people who are experts in this space, and you're ready to have it just done for you so that you can really move forward and step into confidence in your branding and know that you're portraying your excellence to your ideal client. And so if that's you, put call in the comments. I'd love to talk to you about what that could look like, if we're a good fit, if this is something that you're ready to dive into in 2024. So again, put call in the comments if you just like to talk. It's no pressure. You don't have to make a decision right there on the call at all. We just talk through what is important to you, what your brand vision is, and how I might help with support you in that. And then from there, you can decide if you'd like to move forward with me or not. So that pretty much covers today for part 2. Next week, we're going to be diving into my mood board, which is really kind of taking that Pinterest board. It's basically the visual direction of the brand. We're kind of compiling it into kind of a snapshot collage of photos that capture the essence of the visual brand, that visual style that I'm going for. And so we'll be creating that next week for my new brand. And then moving forward after that with the next part, it will be logo design. So that's all coming up in this group. The series is going to be going on for the entire month of January and even into the first week of February. So if you're interested in following along, put rebrand with me in the comments, and I'll make sure to include you in the tags each week as I post these events. So hope you all are having a wonderful week, and I will see you next week.